Yes, this conversation really took place. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Now, by the title of this video, you're probably really confused. So, let me fill you in. There was a lot of shit that got built up to this conversation between, me and the group of 6. And throughout my videos that you guys have listened to, you've heard me say, I took myself out of these situations. Like, I did everything possible to get out of these situations. And yet they still continued. Like, they found me in my classrooms. They, still called me names in the hallway. They still tried to hurt me in the hallways in front of people. And it got to the point where the school was really pissed off, more so at me than anything, because, again, they thought I was the problem. And one of the reasons why I think that, do I really want to say this? Fuck it, I'm gonna say it. One of the main reasons why they didn't want to go against these guys, the 6, was 2 of them. If you guys have watched my video prior, then you know who I'm talking about. If not, go back and this will make sense. 2 of the members' parent was in some heavy legal problems. They were arrested for murder. And this was actually known. Like, it is a real thing. You can look it up on the internet. It still exists. And so I don't know if that had a play in it, but I personally think it did, because it got to the point where it's like, again, they put everything on me. They catered to them. And when I say cater to them, I mean they never got into trouble. They were allowed to go walking through the halls drunk and stoned out of their mind, allowed to walk into classrooms, and just allowed to do whatever the fuck they wanted. And nothing was done against it. And so I guess it got to the point where the school was very frustrated. So they pulled me and my ex out of a class, and they stuck us into this small ass room with a teacher. Now, this teacher, I really liked him. He was a cool teacher. He was kind of a counselor, wasn't a counselor, but he was very easy to talk to. He had a very calming presence. And so he pulled us into this room and told us that the school wanted us to be friends, me and my ex. They wanted us to get along and have no problems. So in order to do this, we had to sit down and talk. Now, you can imagine my frustration at this point. Like, this wasn't even like a choice. They literally wanted us to act good. And after leading up to this conversation, my ex was actually put into one of my classes. That was a whole other thing and a whole other fucking mess. So yeah, they wanted us to be friends and they wanted us to get along and act like everything was okay. That we were going on to being adults, so we had to have an adult conversation. And I just remember sitting there just wanting to punch everybody in the face. And I just sat there, and I think again, this is just my opinion, but from steps that were taken, this is how it proceeded. That, again, they didn't want this black mark put on them that they were, a shitty school and didn't deal with things. And So by the look on my face, I knew this teacher could tell I was not having any of this. So he says, we're going to have an open conversation, and, we're going to lay everything out on the table. And I didn't say anything, and my ex was, like, looking at me, like, oh, there's nothing really to say. And so my ex was dating this other chick at the time. This story has so many fucking layers, it's unbelievable, so we'll see where this goes. But this is a good one. This is a juicy one. You guys should strap in for this one. So they're like, well, the school thinks you two still have feelings for each other. That you're still in love with each other. And that you guys have to sort out those feelings. And I remember laughing. And laughing. That's all I could do was laugh. And this teacher's just like, what's so funny, Jess? I'm just like, first of all, I don't want to be here. I don't want to deal with this thing. You guys are just covering your ass. I'm just being honest. You guys are covering your ass. So you want everything to be okay. It is not okay. And my ex said, oh yeah, like, I still have feelings for her, but I know that I can't be with her just because of, like, everything that's going on. Like, I want to be with her, but that's just not how it is, so it is what it is. And so this teacher's just like, well, Jess, how do you feel? And I'm like, I don't think you want to know how I feel. And this teacher's like, no, we do. So I turned from the teacher to my ex and said, you want to know how I feel? You say that you still love me, then why the fuck are you raping me? And why the fuck are your friends raping me? And beating me in the hallways and calling me names and ripping at my clothes and threatening to kill me on multiple occasions. Walking into my classrooms saying, oh, look boys, the cunt's not dead. I guess we have to try harder. And then I sat back and I crossed my arms against my chest. I'm like, that's how I'm feeling. You have no idea how I'm possibly feeling. How can you sit there across from me and have the balls to say that you love me, but you're treating me like shit? You're abusing me. That's not love. That's power. You want power over a human being. And my teacher's like, whoa, I guess, he wasn't really my teacher, but I've had him, whatever. Anyways, a teacher, said, whoa, that's like heavy language you're throwing around. And I looked at the teacher, I'm like, I don't give a fuck, it's the truth. And I said, if we're having a serious conversation here, let's take this seriously. If not, I'm walking out that fucking door and out of this fucking school today. And I remember the look on this teacher's face, I should say, and on my ex's face. Because this was the first time that not that I wasn't vocal before, because I mean, I reached out and I told them to stop on multiple occasions. But this is where I was not going to back down. Where I wasn't going to, I was not backing down. And, I wasn't shouting or anything. But this room was attached to a library. And a teacher was teaching in there at the time. And the door was ajar a little bit, because I guess it was hot or whatever. And she came storming in, threw open the door. And she's like, what's going on in here? And the teacher's like, we're having a conversation. You might just want to shut the door. She looked at me. She's like, I heard the language you were saying. Stopping a bitch. And I stood up. I was like, excuse me? Excuse me. You are a teacher and you are calling a student a bitch. And the teacher that was in the room with me and my ex, stood up and, went to the teacher and talked to her and then came back and shut the door And, like, I was fuming. Like, I was not doing this. Like, I was just so aggravated. So aggravated. Like, this was before prom, too. So I was doing the sheets and stuff and getting signed. I had to do that twice. So I told you guys the one in prom, and I had to do it another time. And this was whatever. Like, it was mid school year type shit. Like, this wasn't at the end. This was just them trying to get control. Because there were days where I wouldn't show up to class. And my parents knew that. Like, if it wasn't mandatory for me to be at the school, I would not come. That is how bad it got. Like I said, they knew some of the shit, but they don't know all of the shit. And so this teacher came and sat back down. And my ex was looking at me this whole time. Like, trying to, like, figure out a way of, like, trying to get out of this, trying to, like, show him, like, beat me his eyes and be like, oh, you know, everything's okay. Like, no, and I wasn't going for that shit anymore. And I turned to the teacher that was in the room. I said, this is why I don't say anything, and you want to mend bridges and want us to be friends and goody-goody, where a teacher just called me a bitch because I was speaking the truth, and he's just sitting there all Prince High and Mighty. Nobody wants to touch him. Nobody wants to tell him to get into trouble, but I'm always the one, you know, getting suspended, because there was times where I would get suspended because of these guys. Because I wouldn't do, like, these trips and stuff because they were on it, I would get suspended. Or, like, they would come into my classroom and I would say some shit and I would get suspended. There were times where, like, I went to one of my best friend's lockers to get a school book, and the teacher kind of, like, it was a whole fucking shit show, but I got in trouble and I got suspended and sent home. And it's like, they got nothing. I mean, occasionally they would throw in, like, oh yeah, you're good for a day. Like, go home and cool off, and then everything would be fine. I got the ass end of everything. And I was, like, just laying it all out on the table. I'm like, I am fucking tired of this shit. How can you drive a human being to want to kill themselves? And you're sitting here all proper, all of you. And I pointed to the teacher. I was like, this is a lot to put on your shoulders, but I'm classifying as you as the whole school right now, because nobody is listening to my thoughts and feelings. You want, as a school, want this to be like a good goody two-shoe thing, so you want us to make up and be friends. I'm like, that's not what I fucking want. I don't want us to be friends. I want nothing to do with this, and I have worked my ass off to not want to have anything to do with this. And yet you guys are constantly throwing in my face. What, to please him because he still has feelings? I'm like, really, who wanted this? Him or the school? Or both? Because I have not had a say in this. Nobody cares about what the fuck I want. So it doesn't matter what happens in this room. You guys are still going to classify as us being friends and stuff. And, like, oh, hash it out and it'll be all under the bush or whatever. Like, it's done. And, like, the teacher didn't know what to say. And my ex didn't know what to say. Like, he's just like, holy shit. He's like, well, we didn't mean any of those things. You're kind of over-exaggerating stuff. I'm like, don't make me to be some crazy bitch. And don't pretend like you don't know what your friends are doing, because that is bullshit, because 95% of the time you are there. The other 5%, I know you have something to do with it. So don't pretend that this is like, oh, you have no idea what the fuck's going on. And, like, they both didn't know what to say. And the teacher's just like, well, now that you have, like, gone it all out and stuff, and there's, like, not much more to say, like, just be friends, make up, say sorry, and you know, it'll be good. I grabbed my backpack and I said, fuck you, fuck this school. And I walked out of the room and out of the school. And I was just done. I was just like, you know what, this is some bullshit. And, you know, I worked my ass off for the scholarship for the school. You know, that was the one good thing I was holding on to. And, you know, I did a video of the whole scholarship thing. It was bullshit. Anyways, but at the time, it seemed really good. It seemed like a way out, you know. And, you know, so, like, a week later, like, I was back in school and stuff. And, like, lo and behold, I go to one of my cooking classes. No, it was my cooking class. And who sits across from me? My ex. I said, what the fuck are you doing here? He said, oh, I just transferred to this class. I wanted to, you know, be in this class. We're friends now. I'm like, fuck you, you ain't. And, like, at every turn, like, it was fucked up. Like, he would drag me outside because we had, like, this dock and thing to, like, talk and stuff and want to talk. And, like, his ex would be sending me threatening texts and stuff. And, like, she would pretend to be texting me and it would be, like, pretending to be him texting me. Or, like, he would text me pretending to be her. It was, like, a shit show that doesn't even classify, like, as a, like, conscious thing. Like, this, literally, it sounds like this is I'm pulling this shit out of my ass, but it was a 3-ring circus. Like, I just didn't know what to do or say, and it was just disgusting. But it's like, how dare the school try to cover up their asses and try to make everything fine and want us to be friends. That was a fucking conversation that happened. They sat us down like children, wanted us to be adults, and wanted us to be friends at the same time. Like, no. I was not having it. Like, I was so pissed off and so disgusted with it. Like, to this day, I look back and be like, what the fuck? Like, really? That was a fucking conversation that happened. And not even to, like, oh, we should look into this, you know. It was like, oh, okay, you got everything off your chest. Be friends now. Like, oh my god, I can't even begin to tell you how emotionally fucked up that was. And mentally fucked up. And it was just, I can't even believe this happened. Anyways, guys, that is it for this video of, yep, they wanted us to be friends. Anyways, guys, remember, never give up, always keep fighting, you're enough, and you're very much loved. No matter what you guys are going through, I am here for you. I am willing to sit down, learn, and listen. And better yet, be a support system for you guys. Sending my love to all of you. Until the next video.